Hey guys, this is God of Politics and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. But in today's video, I'm going to be doing an interesting video, which is the problem with Joe Biden, which is his enthusiasm. So one of the most important things in any election is turning voters out. You know, if you're not turning voters out, you're not going to win the election. And this is a problem that many people are understating about Joe Biden, people in the media, people like that. And sure, people are pointing this out, but it is something that needs to get more attention because people are talking about the fact that Joe Biden is winning in the polls right now. He's doing very well. And yes, he is doing very well in the polls right now. But, you know, will that translate into results if he doesn't have the right enthusiasm? So this is a poll by The Economist here, which is actually quite a good poll overall. It has, you know, a lot of information here. You know, you can find a link down in the description if you really want to see all this information, because there's a lot of information, not just about not just about the elections, but about, you know, mask wearing, unemployment rate, things like that. So, but I'm going to be looking at the enthusiasm gap and seeing why it's a problem for Joe Biden come the election. So if we go down here to 66A, we can see here candidate enthusiasm, Joe Biden. How do you feel about the presidential candidates listed below? So we're not going to look at the total amount, but we're going to look at it for the party ID. So of the Democrats, 40% of people feel enthusiastic about voting for Joe Biden. 44% feel satisfied but not enthusiastic. 11% feel dissatisfied but not upset. And 2% feel upset. If we compare that to Donald Trump, so remember this number, 40% enthusiastic, 44% satisfied, but not enthusiastic. If we compare that to Donald Trump, however, how do you feel the presidential candidates listed below the enthusiasm for Donald Trump? Amongst Republicans, he has 70% enthusiasm amongst, for people that are enthusiastic, 70%, which is 30% higher than Joe Biden. Then you have 19% who are satisfied but not enthusiastic, and then 6% that are dissatisfied but not upset, and then 4% that are upset. So you only have 10% here who are either upset or dissatisfied but not upset. That's 10% for Donald Trump. For Joe Biden here, we can see that that number is 13%. And what guarantee is there that these people are going to turn out? What guarantee is there that even the satisfied people will turn out? Because a lot of the reason that Joe Biden is ahead by so much currently is due to the fact that, you know, of the actions Donald Trump is taking. So people are voting against Donald Trump. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, how people are rather voting against Donald Trump than voting for Joe Biden. What guarantee is there that those voters are going to turn out? And, you know, there are many different things, like there are more Democrats polled in this as there are more Democrats in the country. What do the independents think? If we look at the independents here, this is for Joe Biden. Independents, 13% feel enthusiastic for him, 22% feel satisfied but not enthusiastic. So that means 35% are either satisfied or enthusiastic for Joe Biden. If you compare that to Donald Trump, we can see here that number is 42%. So that number is higher for Donald Trump as well. So, you know, there are less Republicans in the country, of which they are much more enthusiastic. But even amongst independents, they are more enthusiastic to vote for Donald Trump than they are to vote for Joe Biden. And so this is a very interesting thing for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is going to need these independent voters to turn out. And he's going to need his Democratic base to turn out, especially those progressive voters that maybe voted for Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren in the primary. How are you going to get those voters to turn out? And if you look at this here, we can see, would you say you are voting mostly for Joe Biden or against Donald Trump? 42% say you're voting for Joe Biden. 57% say they're voting against Donald Trump. But if we look at party ID here, we can see amongst, you know, Democrats, they didn't poll Republicans, but amongst Democrats, 46% are voting for Joe Biden, 52% are voting against Donald Trump. Of independents, that number is 27% voting for Joe Biden, 70% voting against Donald Trump. So this is out of hatred for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump makes a good couple of steps in terms of maybe an economic recovery, in terms of many other aspects, that is going to hurt Joe Biden more than it'll hurt Donald Trump if Joe Biden does something good. So if we look at Donald Trump overall and we go to party ID here, we can see that amongst Republicans, 83% of them are voting for Donald Trump. That number is 50 points higher than it is, or 40 points higher than it is amongst Joe Biden. Why is that? It's because they're more enthusiastic to vote for Donald Trump than they are to vote for Joe Biden. And this is going to be a big problem for Joe Biden. I know I have to keep saying this, but it is going to be a problem for Joe Biden because if Donald Trump does something good, if there is an economic recovery of which voters trust more, for Trump on the economic recovery standpoint, which is going to be very important come election day, then Donald Trump is going to be able to win because Donald Trump's support base is much stronger than it is amongst Joe Biden. If we want to look at the primary turnout here, we can see in Texas, for example, you had approximately 1.8 million. How about we say 1.8 million? If we go to the Republican side, this number, if we go over to here, this number was higher amongst Donald Trump than it was amongst all of the other Democrats combined. This was a Super Tuesday state. There was no reason for Republicans to turn out, or not much of a reason, but then Donald Trump still ended up getting more votes than all the other candidates combined. If we look at Florida, for example, the overall turnout was about 1.5 million in Florida for the Democrats. For the Republicans, it was 1.1 million. And in swing state where, again, there's no reason for Republicans to turn out. If we look at, other states, for example, Michigan, there was around 650,000 Republican voters here. If we look here, there's 1.3 for the Democrats. And so the turnout for Joe Biden is not that great. It is up from 2016, but it's not very good concerning the fact that Donald Trump's is up a lot compared to Obama 2012, for example, or Bush 2004. If we look at Ohio, we can see the turnout here is not very good at all. If we look at the turnout here, we can see, it's maybe 800,000 if you're really, good to them, and Donald Trump almost beats that in terms of turnout. And so this is going to be a very big issue for them. Even if we want to look at, say Pennsylvania, Donald Trump got 1,050,000 votes. Joe Biden got 1.3 million. Obama did not even get anywhere close to Mitt Romney in 2012 in terms of turnout. If we want to look at Georgia, Democrats did beat them. Democrats got, 1.2 million votes, something like that, or maybe not that many. Donald Trump got 942,000. While Democrats are doing well in terms of turnout in some of these states that are trending towards the Democratic column, like Georgia, it is a big worry for them when Donald Trump has such a strong base and he is going to have to turn them out. I feel much more confident that Donald Trump's base will turn out than it will for Joe Biden's, the fringe of his base. Those Bernie Sanders supporters saying, I'll vote for Joe Biden, but they're not very enthusiastic about it. If we want to look at this poll here, this U.S. News article talking about how Biden leads Trump in new polls, but he may face an enthusiasm gap. And again, it just corroborates what we saw in that Economist poll. It does show that Biden has a 14-point lead over Trump, 55% to 41%. But if we look at the enthusiasm gap, we can see that, Joe Biden still has an issue with enthusiasm, and it's going to be a big problem because, Joe Biden is, again, going to have to turn out these voters. And if we look at this poll here, it says 7 in 10 Trump voters are voting for the president, while 27% saying their decision is to vote against Biden. Former Vice President Joe Biden, meanwhile, has a less devoted following, with 37% of voters saying they plan to cast a pro-Biden vote, and 60% saying they're casting a ballot against Trump. Will those people say they're voting for Biden if Donald Trump does something good? And this is completely hypothetical, but if Donald Trump does do something very good, what guarantee is there that those voters are going to turn out? If we compare it, to other years, the numbers were similar. Mitt Romney had similar numbers, In 2012, 80% of Obama voters were motivated by re-electing the president, while 18% of them were casting a ballot against Mitt Romney. Amongst Romney voters, 6 in 10, they were saying they were putting a vote to put Mitt Romney in the White House, while 38% said they were casting an anti-Obama vote. This is basically saying that, Mitt Romney had consolidated support amongst his party, and he was still not able to win. Joe Biden does not have consolidated support amongst his party. It's all about hating the other guy. What guarantee is there that they're then going to be able to win? And another problem is it's especially the enthusiasm amongst Latino voters. If we want to go down here to this PBS poll, which showed Biden up by 8 points here, we can see that the head-to-head between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Donald Trump's support here amongst Latino voters is at 39%. And this is going to be a big problem for Joe Biden, because if you compare to the 2016 exit polls, we can see here that amongst race, Donald Trump got 28% of the Latino vote. In this poll, Joe Biden is only at 59% to compare to Hillary, who got 66%. Donald Trump's at 39% compared to Donald Trump, who got 28% in 2016. And this is basically proving another point that Joe Biden does not have very consolidated support amongst voter groups that usually are very good for the party. Latino voters and younger voters who are not necessarily turning out each election, but they turned out this election at least more than they did before, and now they're saying they're not very enthusiastic about voting for Joe Biden. And this is overall just kind of to point out that Joe Biden is doing very well right now. I'm not going to doubt that at all, but he does have a problem, and that is enthusiasm, and he's going to have to, along with talking about the Trump hatred and all the bad things Trump does in his eyes, he's going to have to talk about what he's going to do about it to get people to be voting for him and to be more motivated for him. And if he doesn't do that, it's going to be a big problem, and it's going to be to his detriment come November. So that's just what I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you all enjoyed this video, so please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and you like my videos. Join the Discord as well. That is linked down in the description. So thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys later.